Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Today we're going to be looking at cultural differences, and we've got this text here called Cultural Differences That Shape Who We Are. Pretty straightforward title.
But straight to the point.
Yeah, should be an interesting one. So, what do you say we just jump right in?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so I guess the first thing that jumps out at me is just how pervasive culture is. You know, like we tend to think of it in terms of like the obvious stuff,
Right.
like, you know, food, music, art.
Right, the things you can see.
Exactly.
Right.
But this text is saying that culture goes so much deeper. Like it really shapes who we are at our core.
Oh, absolutely. It influences our values, our beliefs, our behaviors, even how we perceive the world around us.
So give me an example. Like, how does that actually play out in real life?
Okay, well, let's take the idea individualism versus collectivism.
Okay.
That's a big one. So you've got some cultures that really emphasize the individual right. Independence, self-reliance, achieving things on your own.
Like the classic American ideal.
Exactly. And then you've got other cultures that are more collectivist, where the focus is on the needs of the group harmony, interdependence.
So how does that difference play out in, like, say, a family setting?
Well, in a collectivist culture, family ties tend to be much stronger.
Yeah.
There's a greater emphasis on respect for elders.
Yeah.
Filial piety.
Yeah. And decision-making is probably a lot different too, right?
Oh, absolutely. In individualistic cultures, people are more likely to make decisions independently, based on their own personal goals.
Right. Do your own thing.
Exactly. But in collectivist cultures, decisions are often made collectively, after consulting with family members or others in the group.
Which can be frustrating if you're not used to it.
It can. Yeah, you might feel like things are moving too slowly or that you're not being heard. But it's important to remember that that's just a different way of doing things.
It's not that one way is right or wrong. It's just different.
Exactly. And I think it's so important to understand these differences because it helps us avoid misunderstandings,
Right. You're not just like, oh, this person's being difficult. It's like, oh, there's a cultural reason for why they're behaving this way.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point. Because when we understand where people are coming from, their cultural background, it's easier to empathize with them to build relationships,
Yeah, it's like you're speaking the same language, even if you're not.
Right. And I think this is especially important in today's world.
Oh, absolutely.
We're more interconnected than ever before.
Right. We're constantly interacting with people from different cultures, whether it's at work or online or, even just traveling.
So cultural awareness is kind of like a superpower these days.
It really is. It helps us navigate all these different interactions in a way that is respectful and effective.
So I was thinking about this the other day. Like, how different cultures view time?
Oh, yeah, that's a fascinating one.
Like, some cultures are super schedule driven. Everything's got to be on time.
Right, time is money.
Exactly.
Right.
And then other cultures are much more relaxed about time. It's more fluid. And that can definitely lead to clashes if you're not aware of it.
Oh, totally. Like, imagine you're working on a project with someone from a culture where time is super strict. And you're from a culture where it's more like, okay, we'll get it done when we get it done.
That could be a recipe for disaster.
It could. And it's so easy to just jump to conclusions like, oh, this person's lazy or disrespectful.
Right. But it's not about that. It's about understanding that they have a different cultural perspective on time.
And that just because they view time differently doesn't mean they don't value the project or the relationship.
Exactly. It's just a different way of approaching things.
So the key takeaway here is that culture is not just this like superficial thing. It really does shape who we are, how we think, how we behave.
Absolutely. And the more we understand these differences, the better equipped we are to navigate our increasingly diverse world.
This has been so interesting. I feel like I could talk about this all day.
Me too. It's such a rich topic.
But unfortunately, we are out of time. So as you go about your day, pay attention to the cultural differences you encounter. You might be surprised at how much you start to notice.
And remember, even within a single culture, there's a lot of individual variation.
That's a good point. So the key is to approach each person with curiosity and an open mind. Be willing to learn and to challenge your own assumptions.
And who knows, you might even discover something new about yourself in the process.
Absolutely. So that's it for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed it. And be sure to join us next time for another fascinating exploration.
See you then.